Hi, everybody. It's Professor Goldstein. Good to see you all. Not really see you all. I just love to say that because I pretend like I could actually see you when I actually can't. And hopefully, you're getting something from this class virtually. I always say that like because I'm never sure, what the what the real progress is. In the old days, it was we were in the same classroom. I could kind of sense how you were doing and not sense how you were doing. But I hope you're doing all well. Today, I'm going to talk a little bit about our paper that is due the day after Memorial Day. That's our business plan, the 5-page business plan that is going to be typed and 5 pages long, double spaced, sent to me via email to michael.goldstein at kbcc.cuny.edu. And just it's going to be an attachment to an email. And that'll be the summation of your grade. And I want to talk to you a little bit about some business ideas that I use as a way of conveying what the business plan is all about. So here's some business ideas. I happen to love, and I don't know if any of you have ever done this, but I encourage you to. Some of you may be afraid of the water, some of you may not, but I encourage you to take a cruise sometime in your lifetime. A nice cruise. Not just 3 days, but a nice, at least a minimum of 7 days. 7 days on a cruise ship with a friend, a significant other, family members, something like that. Don't go alone. Go with some family, friends, and preferably. Although for the first time, I would say one of the newer ships from one of the cruise lines. Now, in the United States, there are many, many cruise lines, and throughout the world, there are many, many cruise lines. China has its own cruise lines. Britain has its own cruise lines. Germany has its own cruise lines. But in the United States, there are three main cruise lines. Although that they are not owned by not necessarily owned by Americans. One of them is actually two of them are. It's a Royal Caribbean, Norwegian, and Carnival are the three biggies. They own many other cruise lines also, but they themselves are the three big cruise lines in the United States. And what's the business that I'm talking about? Well, the business isn't cruising. Why do I talk about cruising? Well, cruising is a great thing, and I used to have a business class where I would take my students to from Kingsborough for lunch on one of the cruise ships. I had a relationship with one of the cruise lines, and we would go for lunch, and we get a tour of the cruise ship. The boat would never leave, but they would get a sense of what a cruise was like, and they'd have a free lunch on the cruise ship while the ship was in dock in Manhattan, and then they get a sense of what you could do on a cruise ship and so forth. And many people who've never taken a cruise don't realize that cruising is for really all ages. It really for the littlest child, because they have all sorts of different camps where they can take the kids in all day, to the teenagers, really, to the young adults, to the couples, and on up to families and then seniors and so forth. There's something for everyone, and they keep you very, very busy on most cruise ships all day long. And why am I bringing this up for our business plan? So let me. Sometimes I talk and I don't get to the point, and the point is that there has been a new business. Really, cruising has only been around about 50 or so years. Before that, cruise ships were used for bringing people from one place to another. Cruise ships weren't called cruise ships necessarily. They were more transatlantic ships. They would take people from Europe to the United States, or from the United States down to South America, and they weren't really about having fun or eating. Although there was very, if you've seen the movie The Titanic, it was very fancy. They had food, and they would walk around the deck. But that really was so that they got from England to the United States. That really was what it was all about. It was not about just going to the Caribbean islands and going from island to island on a cruise ship, or going to Alaska on a cruise ship, or going from city to city in Europe on a cruise ship, and having all sorts of things, slides and roller coasters and bumper cars and basketball courts and casinos and all these other things that are now on cruise ships. So in the last 50 years or so, cruising began, and really it began here in the United States with a company called Carnival. And an individual named Ted Arison bought an old cruise ship that was from Greece, not a very large one, and it would go for, it was really like a ferry that would take people from island to island in Greece, and he revamped it and turned it in really to the first Carnival cruise ship, and called them the fun ships, and really made the ships very much. Ted Arison spent much of his time when he was in his youth, younger, up in what was called the Catskill Mountains in New York State, where there were many, many, many hotels, and over 1,000 hotels, over 2,500 bungalow colonies, where people would go up. People from New York City would go up there during the summer and escape the heat of the city, because the air conditioning hadn't yet been invented, or there was air conditioning, but it was very, very different than the air conditioning we know today. And people didn't have air conditioning in cars, and people didn't have air conditioning in their homes. You would have to go to a movie theater or something like that to get air conditioning. So people would escape the heat by going up to the Catskills, and they would have all sorts of things in the Catskills to keep you entertained while you were at these hotels. One thing was that they would have unbelievable food. Really, when you go to these hotels, they'd have breakfast, lunch, and dinner. It was ridiculous how much you would have. The same thing would be for activities. They would keep you busy constantly so that you were never bored with what you were doing. And the evening entertainment was spectacular. They would have huge names in comedy and singing and dancing, and they would do all sorts of activities during the day to keep you entertained. So the cruise ship, Ted Arison took that idea from the Catskills, and he really kind of placed it on a ship. And he said, well, we're going to give them food all day long, all night long. We're going to give them entertainment all the time. We're going to keep them busy all the time. And then every day we're going to stop, or every other day we're going to stop in a port, and we're going to let them off the ship, and they can go enjoy wherever we are. And then they come back to the ship, and then we take them to the next place. And this is going to be a great vacation. And it did. It turned out to be a tremendous idea, and Carnival exploded. And Ted Arison became one of the wealthiest men in the United States, and other cruise lines followed the Carnival model. And now there are many, many, many competitors. Even they've started. Disney has its own cruise line, and there's one called now Margaritaville. Virgin has its own cruise ships now. So there's all types of cruise ships, and there's all types of activities. Now, how do I come up with a business plan? Well, what I used to do with my students, the ones that went on the cruise ship and had lunch, was I would say, let's come up with a business plan for a business to make you money now while you're young, and working with the cruise ships. How do we do that? How do we work with the cruise ships, the cruise lines? Well, cruise lines at the time, and are still doing this, were coming up with themed cruises. There's a thing called a themed cruise, where the people who go on that cruise ship, pretty much everyone, although it doesn't have to be the whole ship, will go for a specific reason to that cruise ship. So let's say you have a cruise that's leaving, and it's a quiet time in your cruising. Like, you don't get your cruise ship is not all filled. The idea for a cruise ship is they want to fill up every room on the cruise ship. That's really their most important thing. And they try that, and of course during Christmas and during the summer and during certain holidays, the cruise ships are all filled. But there are quiet times when they're not necessarily all filled. And what they try to do is try to attract different types of people to different cruise ships. So they have all types of themes. They have musical themes, where let's say they'll do a cruise ship based upon one band, or one musical artist, or they'll do it based upon a decade of music. So they'll have, the '90s on a cruise ship with they'll have 10 bands on a cruise ship, or they'll do a cruise ship based upon something people like a TV show like Star Trek, movies like Star Trek. So they'll have the cast of Star Trek on the movie. I don't know if you ever watch, most of you are too young to watch Turner Classic Movies on television, but TCM, Turner Classic Movies, does a classic movie cruise with different, older stars, and they show movies on the ship. By the way, some of the ships have a big screen by the pool outside, and some of them have big movie theaters on the ship. So they show movies on the ship. That's for people who like old movies. They have an old movie cruise. They have cruises for people who are into Latin music, and cruises who are and sometimes they'll just do a cruise based upon ethnicity. They'll do a cruise, let's say a Turkish cruise for people from Turkey, or they'll do a cruise for people from Japan. They'll do a Japanese cruise, and there'll be all kinds of theming. There'll be music from Japan. There'll be food from Japan. There'll be maybe like somebody who's famous from Japan who'll be on the cruise ship. But they'll try to attract Japanese people to that one cruise ship for a theme. Now, I would have my students come up with a specialty cruise for their business plan. Literally, they would come up with an aha idea. There would be that aha moment. And I would say, listen, come up with something. It could be for your church. It could be for your mosque. It could be for your synagogue. It could be for your family. Let's say you have a large family and you have 50 people. Now, how do you make money by doing these themed cruises? That's what my students would always ask, and it's very interesting, but it's true. If you have a large group of people that want to take a cruise together, and you have that group of people, and they will all take the cruise with you, be it a group of people, be it a club that you belong to. Let's say the Kingsborough Tennis Club or whatever, Kingsborough Bowling Club, and all of you guys want to take a cruise together. Everyone on the bowling club wants to take a cruise together. Let's say there's 50 people. Then you go approach the cruise lines, Carnival, Norwegian, Royal Caribbean, whatever, and you say, listen, I have a group of people that want to take a cruise together. How much will I get per person, depending on what room they take on the ship? They have smaller rooms, very small rooms, large rooms with balconies, big rooms, big suites, depending on what their room is. What percentage of their room do I get back in terms of a payment from you? And they will pay you. The cruise ship will pay you almost as if you're a travel agent who's booked these rooms. They'll pay you for bringing these people along. And what can I get for these people that is special that you could provide us? Like, can we have like a champagne party when we board in a separate room just for us? Or could we have hors d'oeuvres at that party? Or could we have some sort of special night for us at a special dinner in one of your restaurants on the ship? Can we have a special dinner? There are all sorts of things that they could do for you. If you have a large group, I mean really large, like I'm talking like over 100, 200, 300 people, then they will do a lot. They will provide you with lots of money, and they will provide you with lots of different things. So the larger your theme is, whatever your theme is, and your theme could be just, friends and family, but it's a large group, it's a family reunion, and you're bringing a lot of people on the cruise ship, then they give you back. So there is a public safety officer at Kingsborough who is one of my friends who shall go nameless for right now. And what happens with him and his wife, and they've done this for many, many, many years. They grew up in a neighborhood in Brooklyn, and they had many, many friends from that neighborhood. And there's a certain type of music and feeling that they had for each other that they get together every year. And so this husband and wife started a cruise maybe like 10 years ago. This public safety officer at Kingsborough started a cruise, maybe even longer. I would say maybe 15 years ago they started doing these themed cruises. And what they do is they bring together all the people from their neighborhood, and it's over 100 people, maybe sometimes 200 people. People hear about it, they want to go. And they hire a band, and they pay the band, and they make a fortune in money from the cruise line for bringing these 150 people or 200 people on board the cruise ship. The cruise ship provides them with a place for the band to set up, a room, so there's dancing every night. They all eat together in the same restaurant every night, all 200 of them. They take excursions together. When I say excursions, when you get off the cruise ship, the cruise is, you can either do your own thing when you get off the cruise ship, or you can take what's called a cruise ship excursion and get on a bus or a truck or a plane or whatever, and they take you places while you're when you're docked. So like that public safety officer's aha moment was to come up with a cruise based upon the neighborhood he grew up in Brooklyn, and the people that he grew up with, and the type of music that he grew up with at that time. And it's become a huge success, and he does it every day. Now, what does he get for it? Well, he gets paid. I think he gets 5% of each cruise, and some cruises are $7,000-$8,000. So if he's getting 5% of that, he's doing pretty well. And if he has over 100 people, he's making a lot of money. Plus, he gets his trip for free. His wife and his trip for free. They get a huge, beautiful staterooms, so they don't have to pay for it. They get a couple of rooms for the people, free rooms for the people that they bring along to help entertain and organize also. So they get 4 or 5 free rooms on the cruise ship for the trip. They get all sorts of benefits on the trip for being a large group together. And all he did was approach the cruise lines and say, listen, I want to do a specialty cruise for my family, for my friends, for my neighborhood, and he had to show them that these people were actually, and it's very easy because he doesn't have to sign them up or anything. When these people sign up with they could do it with their travel agent, or they could do it through the cruise line themselves. All they have to do is put his code in. The cruise line gives him a code. And so the cruise line knows that these people were signed up because of this person. And when they all sign up and they're all paid, that's when he gets his check. So what I did when I was at Kingsborough, and this kind of goes with the business plan, I had always heard about these large groups of people that go on cruises and the types of money they made. And I was working with the alumni at Kingsborough, the Kingsborough alumni, and I know a lot of Kingsborough alumni because of that. And when I was the director of the Alumni Association at Kingsborough for many, many years, and I used to do these cruises, these Kingsborough cruises. What I would do was in those days we had an alumni magazine that would go out, a newsletter that would go out to all the alumni. We had over 50,000 alumni in those days. Now it must be closer to 70,000. 80,000. We had about 50,000 alumni of Kingsborough in those days, and I had their names and addresses, which I could not provide to the cruise line, but I could utilize myself. So I would advertise that we were holding a cruise, and we had a cruise on Carnival. We did it for 2 years. 2 years? 2 years. And we did very well. And then I was no longer the director of alumni, so I didn't do it again. And we brought the president of the college at the time along with us. And we had about 160, 180. Second year, we had about more people. So the first year was about 160. Second year was about 180. On the cruise ship, we left from Manhattan. It was 7 days. We went down to the Caribbean. 8 days. Went down to the Caribbean. And the college alumni association, the college itself, made money. I brought Kingsborough t-shirts and Kingsborough hats. We had speakers who spoke about Kingsborough. We had music on the cruise ship. It was we all had dinner together one night on the cruise ship, and then they could do whatever else they wanted on the cruise ship. They could go do their own thing, but they wore their Kingsborough shirts every day. I would give them different things to wear. It was very much a Brooklyn type of activity. We had one night where we had like a Brooklyn dinner together. It was really a lot of fun. but it was my aha moment. I had an aha moment, and I could describe it to you very easily if you asked me what the business plan was. Business plan, it was to bring together a group of Kingsborough alumni on a cruise ship so that they could celebrate the college and the borough of Brooklyn while on the cruise ship. Plus, they could get to enjoy the regular activities of the cruise ship. That was my business plan, and I marketed it by utilizing the list of the reason why I got money back from Carnival and so forth, and they trusted me to do this was I had such a large list of names and addresses, and I had a meeting with them, and they came to the college, and we sat down, and it was actually it was a huge success. The president at that time loved it. The people who went on the cruise loved it. Everybody wanted, pretty much everybody came back for the second time we did it. The person who took over after me did not want to do cruises, did not like doing cruises, so they didn't do it anymore. I loved it. They gave us a number of free rooms for the college, including the president's room and my room on the ship, and it was fun. We had a lot of fun together, and we all got to know each other because they came from different years. They weren't all from one year, but sometimes some colleges actually do alumni cruises where they'll have like 1 year from that cruise. And so I marketed it very well. I think I did a great job of marketing it. I mean, even though we had a huge amount of names, listen, it's very difficult to get people to go on a cruise. It was on an off time when not necessarily people had time off to go. A lot of the people who did go on the cruise didn't have children because their children would have been still in school. But we did have a lot. We had a lot of couples who came, some single people who came. It was wonderful, and so the advertising was through the newsletter. The marketing I did was with Carnival. Carnival gave me all sorts of materials on how to market it, where to focus, what to talk about when people called me, and basically I didn't have to do anything. Once I did all that, the cruise line really did the work for me. In terms of signing the people up, taking their money, doing all that. I didn't have to do any of that. I just had to tell people how to do it, what number to put in when they ask you what the code is for your thing, and to tell your travel agent and when you were signing up, if you were signing up with the travel agent or if you were signing up with the cruise line itself, what the code number they needed to use in order for us to get the benefit and for them to be part of our group. It worked out very, very well. Everybody was very happy with it, and it made me, the college, a lot of money. It was much more than I expected. So here, the two benefits were, it was a positive for the alumni. It made us brought a whole group of people together who really helped out the college, in the future. They donated to the college and so forth. It was a plus. The president got to meet all the alumni and really enjoyed being with them, and she at the time really learned a lot from them and became friendly with some of those people. And we made money for the college. We did not lose money. We made a lot of money, and it was a positive thing. So when I would tell my students this in my prior classes, some of my students, not all of them, some of my students would actually do this. And they did it with their groups of friends and family, or with their, club, or with their social organization, or whatever it was. They would organize these trips, and then they would contact the cruise lines, and they would make money off of this. Some of them, still to this day, let me know that, one girl who graduated from Kingsborough did an Oprah cruise and was able to get permission. She had to get permission from Oprah Winfrey herself and her company, her Harpo, and she was able to organize it. And she worked with her Oprah's company, and she got all sorts of people who appeared. She didn't have Oprah herself, unfortunately, but she got all sorts of people that appeared on Oprah who were experts and so forth to be on the cruise. She had to pay them. It was a huge cruise. She did it with Royal Caribbean. It was like a one-time thing. I don't think it ever happened again. I think she made a lot of money, but she went for her. She got her college degree and then she went for her MBA. I'm not sure what she's doing now, but it was a huge success. And she actually said the only reason I did this was because you told me about it. She goes, otherwise I would have never known about these things. I said, yeah. I said, I'm so proud of you. One guy did a baseball card collecting one who was also one of my students. So why am I saying this? Because when you do your business plan and when you create a business, it doesn't have to be a lot of work for you. And for me, this was not, I'm going to say, when I work hard, I know I work hard. And when I don't work hard, I know I don't work hard. And when I did this project, I thought, oh my God, this is going to be so much work. I'm going to have to deal with, signing people up and taking money from them. And I'm going to have to deal with, people complaining about the cruise and not liking the cruise. And I was like, okay, I'm going to try this, but I'm worried about, what all this stuff. Nope, didn't have to deal with any of that. Nobody ever complained to me. Maybe on the ship a couple of times, whatever it was, they were like, "Oh, I didn't know that you guys were doing this and we missed it or something." But it was never a real complaint. Everybody was positive about what happened. I didn't have to deal with any money. I didn't have to deal with anything that had to do with the business side of it. All I got was a check. Basically, I had to do the marketing and the advertising on behalf of Carnival, but it was for my group. But they did all the work. I didn't have to do it. Even when I got on the ship, I thought, I'm going to have to deal with all these problems and people and everything like that. No, they had a person assigned to me who would, if somebody had a problem, getting into their room or getting into, they didn't come to me. I would send them to this person. The shower wasn't working, or they weren't happy with the room they had, or whatever it was. That was not my problem. That was Carnival's problem. They had to deal with it. I would be like, that's not me. I'm here for your, to bring you guys together. So it was a great thing for your business plan. Come up with something that is easy for you, something that you can do. Remember those things where you really don't have to, something that you can make money just kind of by doing something. Come up with an idea. So like this, you could use the cruise if you want. I encourage you to use it. I would like it if you use it. Come up with your own theme for a cruise. By the way, there is a company called, look at it right now, started when they were in college. Why do I think they know? They must have had a professor like me. It was a company called Sixth Man, the sixth man on the basketball team. So they're called the Sixth Man. And look it up on Google. And they do themed cruises. Sixth Man does major themed cruises, all kinds of themes. Look at the types of themes they do. Now, what they have built themselves into is they take over an entire ship. They don't just do a little bit of 100 or 200 people. Their whole cruise was the entire cruise ship they control. And when they go on the cruise, they bring 20 or 30 of their own people onto the ship. They don't own a cruise line. They use other cruise lines. And usually I think they use Royal Caribbean. But they have, if I would say, they have 30 themed cruises a year, maybe 40 themed cruises a year. They're young people, and maybe you can get a job with them if you want to get a job with them after you graduate from college. It's young. They're energetic. They go on these ships. They set everything up. They set up they have bands. They have music. They'll do all sorts of activities on cruise ships, different types of cruises, different types of themes, and they make a fortune doing this because they fill up the entire ship for the cruise line. So they'll do a regular cruise. So it's a regular cruise, and with whatever theme Sixth Man comes up with, and they come up with lots. By the way, they're not the only company that does this. There are other companies that do themed cruises. You could start a company that does themed cruises. You could do a company that does themed cruises for a certain type of ethnicity. You could do a certain type or a group of ethnicities or religious groups. Or you could do it based upon doing like family reunions for people. That's a great company to come up with. That's a great idea for a business. So I'm at the half-hour point. I'm going to stop now. But I'm going to do something a little bit about themed cruises. Send you a video about that so you can watch it after this one. But hope you all got some information out of this. Hope you enjoyed it. And I'll speak to you later. Bye-bye.